This is video number 2 of my drawing unit, and I'm going to teach you how to basically start a drawing with an object that's in front of you. So you can set yourself up with any sort of still life drawing, any sort of object that you want. If this is new to you, you probably want to start just with one object. And the idea is that once you put this object down and begin drawing it, you do not move it, which is why it is called a still life. So I like to start with a mechanical pencil because it's a very fine point, and I'm not going to press hard, but being that this object is sitting on a table, I always begin my drawings with a line going across, and this should be very light. All of the drawing that you do in the beginning stages should be drawn very lightly because you will be erasing. So the first thing that you want to do when you're talking about drawing an object is study the object. You want to look and notice different things. So I'm going to notice some of the major details. I'm going to notice how there's a line that goes here, there's another line that goes here. I'm noticing that this is a curved sort of cylinder object. I'm noticing that there's details in this piece right here. I'm noticing that this is kind of an interesting shape, and this is a bunch of different shapes put together from the angle that I'm sitting at. There's lines going horizontally on the little nozzle. You have the handle, which is going out on an angle. It's a little bit of a curve. So I'm just sort of speaking out loud about what I'm thinking about when I'm looking at this object. I'm also noticing that there is a bottom portion that is slightly more narrow, and that's a good detail to notice as well. I'm going to begin with drawing the basic shapes, and if I look at this object, I'm going to break it down. So I see this section, and I know I want to make it a cylinder. So if you can draw a cylinder, you can go ahead and do that, but I'm going to even simplify it more, and I'm going to start off with the shape of a rectangle just to get the size right. And being that this object is sitting down on the table, I'm going to draw it below my table line. And just to not confuse myself, I can erase the line that's going through here. So, all right, basic shape. Now I'm seeing what sort of feels like a triangle, but doesn't go quite to a point. So from here, I'm going to draw a triangle. Now, I am planning on definitely going back and tweaking what I have, so don't get hung up on perfection just yet. Just to give myself a guide, this line falls somewhere halfway. If I measure this and this, it's about halfway. So if I imagine this is around the halfway mark, just to give myself some sort of sense. If I look at this blue piece where you tighten, that is a rectangle that is more wide than it is tall. So I'm going to draw that. And now this shape, this is a little bit of a tricky shape, so I'm going to just try to draw how I see it, but I want to keep in mind how big it is. So I like to use my fingers as a tool to measure. So I have my hand here, and I'm going to measure the white piece only, from top to bottom, and I'm going to lock my fingers, and then I'm going to just see what it might relate to. And right here, it happens to be the same size as all these pieces. So right now, I have a pretty good guide for myself on how big. So I'm going to take my fingers, measure this, lock it in, and then I might want to take my hand and just say, okay, let me just make a little mark here, draw a little guideline, and now I can work within this shape, or I'm sorry, within this space. There's a straight line that's going through here. How wide should I make it? Let me measure. It's a little less, it's not quite as wide. So I think I'm actually starting to draw this too big. So I'm going to actually shorten this a little bit because I had it going out past the edge of the spray bottle, but in real life it's not actually doing that. So that was a good thing that I was comparing. Fix my line and make it a little lower because I don't want it to look too big. And then I see that this is another type of a triangle. So you can see that I'm really just drawing the shapes that I'm seeing, okay? And I don't actually see anything here other than what could be like a trapezoid, and I see a little circle on the end. Okay, now I'm going to say, okay, I remember this was on a little slight bit of an angle, and then about how long is this spray piece? Let's see where this hits on my water bottle. So it hits about halfway between the top and this line. So here's the top and the line. Let's say this is about halfway. So I stopped it right in a good spot. All these guidelines are very, very helpful. So don't be afraid to mark up your paper a little bit and press lightly. That way you can definitely erase when you need to. Okay? Alright, so now that I have my basic shapes, now I can start to go and carve and turn this into a little bit more realistic with a little bit more detail. I'm going to start by doing the obvious things. Now, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, okay, well, I see that there's a little bit of a separation here. It's more of a curve because this is a cylinder shape, so I'm going to turn that into a curve. Now I can make these lines. I can make these lines. What else can I add? This actually also is more of a curve, like a ring, sort of like when you're thinking about how you draw a ring on a planet. And this straight line is throwing things off. This is not straight. If it's a curved object, there should be no straight lines. So that's a curve. I feel like I want to make this bottle a little bit taller. So I'm actually going to use this line to be a curve. And then down here where I had mentioned earlier that it got a little narrow, and I see these little curves that are going in like this. So now I'm just starting to add curvature to my object. I'm starting to add detail, and I'm pretty happy with that. There's a little arrow up here. You may not be able to see it from your angle. And then I'm just kind of tracing over the lines that I do like. Pressing a little bit harder. Alright, now I can go ahead and I can erase any of the lines that I don't want. Alright, any guidelines that I drew, I should probably press a little harder here. This actually has a shape. Okay. Alright. So that's the start of how you get to drawing your objects that are in front of you, drawing a still life. The next part of my video, I'm going to do a little bit of shading. So I'm going to stop this video here, and when you want to go ahead and try to do yourself a still life drawing, and then come back and look at how to add value to your object.